I love my life in Mexico, but there are 5 things that I genuinely miss about the United States, and I never thought I'd care about. And no, this isn't about politics, it's about something much more personal.
One of the things I miss most about the US is something I never really appreciated when I lived there: silence. When I lived in Ohio, there were moments when the world would simply be quiet. I could sit on a porch in the evening and hear nothing but the wind moving through the trees, maybe a few birds, perhaps a distant lawnmower somewhere in the neighborhood. But there were always stretches of time where there was just nothing. And I never realized how valuable that was until it was gone. The strange thing about silence is that you don't notice it when you have it, you only notice it when you don't. For me, silence wasn't empty, it was recovery. It was the space where my brain could slow down. It was the difference between feeling constantly stimulated and feeling at peace. When everything around you is quiet, your thoughts have room to breathe. You can read a book, you can think, you can sit outside and watch the sky change colors without something demanding your attention every few minutes. And honestly, I took that for granted for most of my life. Looking back now, I realize that silence wasn't just a background condition, it was something that contributed to my quality of life every single day. It's one of those things that doesn't show up on a cost of living spreadsheet. You definitely can't put a price on it, but once you've experienced life without much of it, you start to understand how valuable it really was. And that's probably the biggest surprise for me. Out of all the things I thought I might miss about the United States, I never expected silence to be near the top of the list. Number two, I miss nature. Not just beautiful scenery, but everyday connection to wildlife that I had growing up. In my backyard in Akron, Ohio, I had raccoons, possums, squirrels, chipmunks, dozens of different birds that I put out food and had a bird bath, blue jays, robins, cardinals, even the occasional hawk. I miss hearing those birds in the morning. I miss seeing deer standing at the edge of a field. I miss long stretches of forest and the feeling that nature was always nearby. And in Akron, near my house, I had a metro park, what most people would actually call a woods with a path in it. But I take my dog there every day, and there was a river that ran through it, and I could see, different wildlife there. Blue herons standing in the river catching fish. Every once in a while, I'd see an eagle in one of the trees. And one night, when I was taking a twilight stroll, I almost had my head taken off by a giant owl as he swooped down to go catch some mouse or something. But, the funny thing is that when you grow up around something, you stop noticing it. It becomes normal. But after living abroad for years, I realized how much those small interactions with nature affected my mood. A walk through a quiet wooded trail would completely reset my day. The changing seasons gave the year a rhythm. Even something as simple as sitting outside and watching those birds at the feeder created a sense of peace. And I didn't realize how much I valued that until it was no longer part of my everyday life. Number three, the third thing I miss is infrastructure. And I know that sounds really boring. Nobody sits around thinking about roads, sidewalks, utilities, or internet service. At least not until something goes wrong. One thing I came to appreciate about the US is how much of a daily life simply works. Roads are generally well marked, utilities are reliable, systems are designed to make life predictable. When infrastructure works properly, you barely notice it. But when it doesn't, it becomes a part of your daily stress. And living abroad has taught me that good infrastructure isn't exciting. It's invisible, and that's exactly why it's valuable. It's one of those things I absolutely took for granted when I lived in the US. The fourth thing I miss is convenience. Americans often criticize convenience culture, but after living outside the US, I've gained a new appreciation for it. The ability to order something and have it arrive quickly, the ability to handle multiple tasks online, stores with predictable and honored store hours, simple return policies, customer service systems designed around saving people time. These are things that I rarely thought about when I lived in the US. They were simply part of everyday life. But convenience isn't really about laziness. It's about reducing friction. It's about having fewer obstacles standing between you and the things you need to accomplish. Once you've lived without that level of convenience, you realize just how much time and mental energy it actually saves. And the final thing I miss is the ability to communicate effortlessly. Now, I have mediocre Spanish at best, and I can handle most everyday situations. Like I can order food, I can ask basic questions, and I can solve some problems. But there is a huge difference between communicating and fully expressing yourself. In your native language, your personality comes through naturally. You can tell jokes, you can explain complicated thoughts, you can be spontaneous, express emotion without searching for words. When you're living in a second language, a lot of that disappears. Even if you're doing well, you're often operating at a reduced version of yourself. And over time, that can be kind of exhausting. I think people underestimate how lonely it can feel when your thoughts are more complex than your current second language vocabulary. You know exactly what you want to say, you just can't always say it the way you want. And that's something obviously I never appreciated when I lived in the United States because almost everyone speaks English. The ability to communicate freely is one of those gifts you definitely don't notice until it's gone. Now, moving to another country changes your perspective. It teaches you that every place has strengths and every place has weaknesses. And absolutely every place has trade-offs. I don't regret for a second to moving to Mexico, not even close. But living here has helped me appreciate things about the United States that I barely noticed when I did live there. And sometimes it takes leaving home to understand what home actually gave you. These are 5 things I truly didn't appreciate until they were gone. So tell me, if you've moved abroad to Mexico or some other country, what are 5 things or just anything that you've missed from your home country while you're living here in another country? Thanks as always. Have a great day. This is Silver Fox in Mexico, out.